On today's Locked On Senators, for the first time in podcast history, we have a playoff victory to discuss. Belleville gets past the Toronto Marlies in their best of three.
And we begin our annual series of exit interviews. As a hashtag goalie-friendly show, we're going to start in the crease.
We'll get into all that, plus NHL playoffs. What a weekend it was. We'll recap that and more on today's edition of the Locked On Senators podcast. It's your team every day.
Your Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
I'm Jake Sanderson, and you're listening to Locked On Senators podcast.
I'm Tim Stützle, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
Welcome inside episode 1034 of the Locked On Senators podcast. I'm Ross Levitan on the outskirts of enemy territory in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains, today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. I admit it, I have a competitive side, and it's a big fan of Monopoly Go, the mobile hit twist on classic Monopoly. Join your friends and download Monopoly Go free on the App Store and Google Play. You can also follow the show on social media. We're at Sens Central on Twitter, LockedOn.Senators on Instagram. The show is free and available on all podcast platforms, including on YouTube, where we say hello and let you know that a like, comment, and subscription go a long way to helping the show grow. Today is Monday, April 29th, and Pilsy, we officially have a date for the NHL Draft Lottery, May 7th. Circle it on the calendar. That is when the Sens will get the second overall pick.
Nice. Love that. The second overall pick for the Ottawa Senators would be great. Ross, really anything other than 8th and 9th, I was going to say celebrate. I wouldn't celebrate if the Sens stayed in 7th, but as long as they're not moving down one spot or two spots, I'm okay. I've come to terms with 7th. Nice number, great spot to pick in the draft, and 1st and 2nd, that would also be great.
I heard that there's a really good 7th overall pick 2 years ago. I think he's already playing in the NHL. Chicago, maybe?
Who cares? Who cares?
Kevin Korchinski, of course, in the Alex DeBrincat trade. The Sens have never picked 7th overall, but they have the 7th best odds, and the draft lottery is on the 7th. So you do the math on that one. But we are excited for that. We will discuss further as we get close to it. We'll have our best options at pick blank and all that right after the NHL Draft Lottery at number 7 on May 7th. I believe it's 7 p.m. as well. It'll probably be right before the NHL games get underway that night. But that's just a little news and notes, because the big story is that the Belleville Sens get past the Toronto Marlies a little closer than it had to be. Yes. Overtime? Come on. I mean, they were able to persevere, though.
Yeah, Ross, this is a big deal. The Belleville Senators, their first ever playoff series win at home up against the Toronto Marlies nonetheless. And it's, Ross, what are the two best words in hockey? Game 3, overtime.
Hey, what we did get to see, though, is the leaders step up on this team. I mean, Garrett Pilon, Peelsy. Credit. I'm going to start. I almost said I'm Ross Levitan on the outskirts enemy territory alongside Peelsy up in the Blue Mountains. I mean, you might have to rejig the nickname, because this guy's becoming a legend right in front of our eyes.
Well, Ross, if he wants the nickname, I'll accept maybe a Rolex watch, a case of nice wine or something. So me and Peelsy can talk about the Peelsy nickname exchange here. But as of right now, I will defer and let him have the nickname, because this guy is rewarding of it. Although, Ross, he has a different nickname. Head coach David Bell calls him Mr. Everything. And that's what Peelsy does, though. He's a big clutch performer. Sure, the goal he scores in game 2 to send it to overtime after the Marlies miss a wide open empty net, it doesn't end up going their way as the Marlies get a goal pretty quickly in overtime in game 2, but he's the one that tied it up. And then this is what they brought him in for. They knew he was a guy with playoff experience. David Bell talked about it, how they looked at his regular season stats and they were decent, but then they looked at his playoff stats and he was a playoff performer. And then he's leading the team in points. He scores a game-tying goal, a game-winning goal, a series-winning goal, scores a goal, stings the Marlies, heads on to the next series. Hello, Cleveland. That's the story.
Yeah, we'll get to how the Cleveland series will develop, but it's a best of 5 instead of a best of 3, which is nice. But I just think that overall, I mean, this series had a bit of everything. You obviously had the mix up in the handshake line, which I don't think we really need to get into. Obviously, it's an emotional series. 2 guys who are known combatants in Boko Imama and Kyle Clifford. They were barking at each other all series. You remember Kyle Clifford got kicked out of game 2. We haven't done a podcast since then because it was over the weekend as well. He gets kicked out and you could hear the ice mics picking up Boko screaming across the rink at Kyle Clifford as he was leaving. Kind of a greasy hit there, but good on Clevin for getting up and getting back in the game. Maybe wasn't the same as he was before. He got beat on the foot race to the puck in overtime, but even still, you're looking at a situation where you want your vets to stand up for the younger players on the team. So I got no issue with that. And I know the Marlies broadcast was accusing Boko Imama of saying some very ruthless things, nothing we caught. And the thing with AHL is that the broadcasters are a part of the team. Yes. So you really have to take it with a grain of salt. I love how footy is so, like, the 2 calls of the handshake line, especially, and the goal, everything. It's just so, like, at each end of the spectrum. It's hilarious.
Yeah, but that's awesome. I love that. And
that's what, like, junior, college, or minor league sports should all be about.
Yeah, like, the home broadcaster should be biased towards the home team. Like, and
should even be like that too. That's what makes sports great.
Well, not on a national broadcast.
Fine. Then have local broadcasts on every game.
Sure. Yeah, I'm fine with that. Hell yeah. But yeah, look, I don't know what was said between Boko Imama and Kyle Clifford, but the handshake line.
We got empty net drama. We got handshake line drama. Did the Leafs not know any unwritten rules?
I mean, a classless organization.
I guess technically the Sens didn't know the unwritten rule in the regular season.
Oh, what? All empty net goals need to be scored under a certain miles per hour? Oh, boo-hoo.
Hey, if the Marlies had taken a slap shot into that empty net, it would have scored.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't have an issue with that. But, like, Kyle Clifford, again,
he's been in a lot of handshake lines. This guy's won cups.
Yeah, we don't know what was said, but all you gotta do is keep it together for a minute or two, and he just couldn't do that. So kind of a tough look for Kyle Clifford and the Marlies, especially John Gruden from Footy's call. John Gruden was telling them, don't come out for the handshake line.
No, sorry, Footy. That was heat of the moment. I listened to John Gruden after the game, and he said, I'm glad that we figured it out and got the handshake done.
Okay.
So at least there's that. But even after listening to Gruden's, I'm all the way out on John Gruden. Not that I was even in before, but you cannot hire the guy who's your buddy who just lost and was dominated for a good portion of that series to your own AHL affiliate. You just can't do it.
Oh, the Belleville Senators dominated the Marlies literally every single game the entire time, except that quick lapse of judgment in overtime where the Marlies were able to capitalize. Like, this was I didn't see Gruden making any adjustments. I didn't see anything kind of change for the Marlies. Like, maybe as an assistant coach, but certainly I'm 100% out on Gruden as a head coach of the Ottawa Senators, for sure.
Who's your Belleville Sens star of the series? We already talked about Peelsy, so we'll leave him out of it. Obviously scored the series clinching goal, scored the tying goal in game 2. Guy was a rock star. He's tied for first in the AHL playoffs in scoring with 3 goals and 1 assist. But was there anyone else on Belleville you wanted to give some stick taps to?
I want to give some stick taps to Angus Crookshank, Ross. Like, this is a guy that's coming off an injury, and it can't be easy to get back out there. I thought he's playing his game. Like, how many times early on in game 3 were the Toronto Marlies losing their minds with Crooker after whistles and scrums. And he did the smart thing, just skate away. And then there even was a time where he got under the Marlies' skin and they were going nuts trying to get after him. And Yuri Smakow comes up to defend him. And Angus turns his back to the Marlies and looks at Yuri and is like, don't waste your time on these pigeons. Don't even bother, Yuri. Don't worry about it. And then they both skate off. He did such a good job, I thought. Now, only gets the 1 assist on the stat sheet, but holy moly, was that one hell of a backhand sauce. I believe it was to Rourke Chartier, a perfect backhand sauce that he buries. So I thought Crooker was playing his game. And I think now with a little bit of time of rest, a little bit of, confidence to boost his ego, I think he's going to come in and have a big, big part of next series up against the Monsters.
Can't wait. My shout out's going to go to Boko Imama, who you knew wanted to set the tone physically. The guy comes out and scores a goal 2 minutes into game 3, really settled everything down. Look, I know they were up 3-1. They allowed the Marlies to chip away, get back into it. This Marshall Rifi kid is actually pretty nasty. Defenseman. He's got 3 goals and an assist in the series for Marlies. He ties the game up late for them, but good on the perseverance of Belleville not to get rattled and to keep it all together and get it in the bag. A big win for the Belleville Senators. So we're fired up about that. Also, funniest stat line of all time for our guy, the disher, Stephen Halliday, who looked great out there, was very calm, poised, cool under pressure and making plays. Pilsy, no goals, 7 assists in the AHL for Stephen Halliday. I said when he signed, I said, we got to get him to double-digit assists before he scores a goal, and he's well on his way. That's 2 assists in 3 playoff games.
Somebody tell me if this guy's a disher or not. Oh my goodness. And Ross, he even had a grade A scoring chance and he rang it off the crossbar. That fourth line, Imama, Reinhardt, and Halliday, they were playing really effective. So I think we're going to see Bellsy rolling lines through. It's not going to be like the fourth line just comes on at the end of a period kind of thing. So this Belleville team, they're going to be a challenge for the Cleveland Monsters. I think this is going to be a really good 5-game series.
We'll have a couple days to preview that series. Cleveland, obviously Columbus has been brutal over the course of the last half decade. So they're a team that has some great prospects down there. We'll preview that series coming up, but shout out as well to Mad Sogaard, who battled, didn't face a whole lot of shots, but he battled. And I think that that's a good sign for him going forward. You'd obviously like the save percentage to be up in the last 2 games a bit here after a dominant performance in game 1, but he got the wins. And I think that's what matters for now. And we'll hope the Mads can steal a couple games here, because Jet Greaves, David Bell noted him in the post game when he was looking forward to this series against Cleveland, that he's one of the best goalies in the American Hockey League. So he's a guy who you're really going to have to be able to beat and be able to match up against on the other side. So we're looking forward to that matchup in goal. And speaking of goalies, on the other side, we will begin our Ottawa Senators year in review. We're going to go through the whole roster, exit interviews. We're starting in goal, almost to get it out of the way, but that's next. Then we'll wrap up with a little NHL playoff talk. But before we go to break, I will let you know that tickets are on sale right now for the Belleville Sens opening game of round 1, because this was a play-in series. So the division semifinal is what we'll call this series. Game 1, CAA Arena, 7 p.m. on Wednesday. Game 2, Friday, May 3rd, 7 p.m. at CAA Arena. And then games 3, 4, and 5 would all be in Cleveland. Now, it could just be the 3rd game, or it could be 3, 4, and 5, because Cleveland has home ice advantage, but because of the travel constraints, they will be playing games 1 and 2 in Belleville.
And Ross, just quickly, how much of poetic justice would it be for Belleville to win both the games in Belleville and then eliminate Cleveland at home, and Cleveland only gets the 1 playoff game at home, just like it happened to Belleville a couple of years ago. So I'm hoping for that. And also, I haven't decided whether I'm going to go to game 1 or game 2 of this series. So I'll keep everybody up to date with which game I decide to go, if I do decide to go. But I think I'm going to go to one of them here.
You got to. It's a historic moment in franchise history. More LOSP on the other side. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. Game Time is now an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Ross, perfect example. I was thinking today, you know what? I haven't been to a Jays game yet this season. Why don't I go down to the city and I'll go to a Jays game? I looked at tickets on Game Time and I found 3 tickets for me and my buddies to go with killer last minute deals, all in prices, views from your seat, and the lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. Look, what I love about it is you can do last minute. I decided to go yesterday, and you can find deals 60% off sometimes on last minute tickets. And it's not just sports, guys. You want to check out the latest concert, your favorite band's coming through town, a comedian that you love is hitting a tour spot near you, or you can check out theater as well with Game Time. So look at the Game Time app. They got the lowest price guarantee. They'll credit you 110% of the difference if you find seats for less in the same section and row. And your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL, LOCKEDON 8 NHL for $20 off. Download Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed.
Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. It's the official sports betting partner of Locked On, and it's playoff time now in the NHL and NBA. Baseball's in full swing. FanDuel is your place to bet on every single game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs and slam dunks, all on an app that's safe, secure, and easy to use. I'm on the app right now. We've got 2 games tonight in the National Hockey League. Tampa Bay, can they stave off elimination again, this time on the road? Plus 152. I like that tonight. But again, I've been wrong every step of the way this postseason. So take it with a grain of salt, but I'm having fun with it because I'm betting responsibly and I'm betting at FanDuel. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, it's America's #1 sports book. Pillsy went a little long in segment 1, rightfully so. The Belleville Sens making history. They just posted some awesome photos as well on their social media at Belleville Sens. Make sure to go follow them and go enjoy some beautiful hockey down in the friendly city in the Bay of Quinte. We'll have plenty more coverage on Belleville as the week progresses, but Pillsy, we got to do this year-end review. It was really fun to do it last year because we were able to talk about improvements and talk about guys who had stepped up, maybe in different areas though, because the goaltending last year was better, but it still wasn't that great. If we look at it, Cam Talbot was being chased out of town. He also, we'll get to playoff talk, but he was sat on the bench last night for the LA Kings in their 1-0 loss to Edmonton. They decided to go a different direction. Ottawa decides to go a different direction this year. They signed Joonas Korpisalo to a 5-year contract. But before we get to the actual individual breakdowns, like you look at this team statistical profile for the Ottawa Senators, and it just was not good enough. A team save percentage of .884. Only the Philadelphia Flyers had a worse overall team save percentage, and no team had a worse goals saved under expected. The Senators, according to the danger level of the shots, that sort of thing, the quality, the quantity, they allowed 34 more goals than were to be expected by a league average goaltender. That is by far the worst in the National Hockey League.
Ross, I can't even fully wrap my head around how bad that is. Like, it's a goal saved above expected is kind of a newer stat that we're all getting comfortable with. So I don't have a lot of past years to compare it to, but my God, minus 34.4. That's brutal.
The second worst is the Minnesota Wild, and they're at 21.
Yeah. Oh, man.
And then it goes 21, 19, 15, right? Like it there's such an outlier that it's almost like Olympic scoring. They wouldn't even use Ottawa. They take out the first and last and use everyone else.
Yeah, for real. Yeah, take out the outlier there in that equation. But I don't know. There's so many different ways you can slice this up, Ross. But the bottom line is just, unless you're a rebuilding team, this just simply is not going to cut it. Like, the Ottawa Senators have no chance at any sustainable success when this is the goaltending that they're getting. And look, we're a hashtag goalie friendly show. Usually we give the goalies a lot more leeway than a lot of people, but there's no way we can spin zone this at all, because this just isn't going to get it done. The Ottawa Senators can't be expected to score 4 goals just to have a chance to win hockey games. It's just not going to work. So there's going to be some changes. I'm quite sure about that. Now, what the changes are and how drastic they're going to be, that remains to be seen. But another season like this simply can't continue, and I don't anticipate it will.
Well, our guy, Mr. T on Twitter, replied to our question asking, how would you summarize the Sens goaltending in one sentence? He says 34 more goals saved would have moved the Senators from 25th in the league to 15th in goal differential overall.
Wow.
That's pretty much the difference between them being in the playoff race in an Eastern Conference where the league was begging for someone to take that last playoff spot.
Yeah. That team's already bounced from the playoffs.
Yeah, and where would have been fun though.
Yeah.
Would have been really fun.
I would have loved to get swept.
The week and a half. I would love to get swept.
Not in the AHL round though.
No. Losing in the AHL, can't relate.
Couldn't be me.
This 37-41-4 is the team record. Joonas Korpisalo continued it's almost impressive at this part. His games per shutout in the National Hockey League has to be the furthest in NHL history. He's played 276 games and has 4 shutouts.
Yeah, Ross, that's one of the stats that we highlighted when Joonas Korpisalo was signed, and I was looking through it, and I was like, 4 shutouts. That must be just in like a certain span, and no, that's his whole NHL career. 4 shutouts. Like, amazing. That's a huge red flag to me. Now, of course, you got to take it with a grain of salt. He played on the Columbus Blue Jackets most of his career, but
one of those shutouts came in his 11 games with the LA Kings.
That doesn't surprise me. Yeah, I want so bad to be able to feel comfortable with Korpisalo and to be like, he's our guy. They got him for 4 more years, had a decent AAV. But with the way he's played and his whole career stats, like looking at all of that together, I just, no matter how hard I try, Ross, even I love his goalie mask. It was 1-1 on our Ring of Honor goalie mask in Ottawa Senators history, I believe, or at least it was my first pick.
Yeah.
And he's not able to instill a lot of confidence, unfortunately. He's able to make athletic big saves, but the issue with that is typically if you're making athletic big saves, it's because you're way out of position. And for Korpisalo, allowing 4 goals very often, and so often, pretty much every single game, you could expect 1 bad goal to happen. So I don't know what we know he's going back to Finland. I believe he's already back in Finland now for the offseason. So I'd be interested to see what kind of training he's going to get into, because he's got to be looking in the mirror and be like, I just signed this monster ticket. I'm the guy in Ottawa. How do I turn this around?
As you can tell, Pilsy's already gone into Joonas Korpisalo, who we will lead off with on our exit interviews, because Joonas Korpisalo played a career high in games with 55, started a career high with 49 starts this season, and still was unable to produce consistency to any standard so far the season's long gone, especially for Korpisalo, who finishes it with just 21 wins in 49 starts. That's 26 losses, 4 OT losses, a 3.27 goals against average, and an .890 save percentage. Had 0 shutouts and a goal saved above expected of minus 16.1. Just not gonna cut it no matter how you slice it. So when you look at Korpisalo's season, I think Pilsy nailed it too. Like, one bad goal a game is the ultimate gut punch for a team that needs confidence from its veteran players, goaltenders included. And they just could not get that from Korpisalo.
No, they couldn't. And it just happened too much. And it happened at bad times. Like, Ross, I don't know about you, but I feel like the bad goal always
Like
happened
at the start of a game.
Well, I wasn't going to say the start of the game. I feel like those goals he would let in on the first or second shot, which was a lot of them, those weren't like head scratching plays. It was more just like, oh man, you couldn't have made 3 saves before letting a goal. Like, it wasn't so much that like they were bad goals. It's just like, wow, so quick and so often. I felt that the bad goals happened right when the Sens would pick up momentum. Like, I don't, maybe that's just me, but I just feel like so many times in my mind, I'm like, ooh, the Sens are kind of nice right now. They got it going. And then just a muffin wrist shot from the top of the circle beats him clean. And you're like, well, there goes that 10 seconds of momentum we had.
Yeah, it was fun while it lasted. And I think the advanced stats really show that too, because if you look at the save percentage on unblock, like on low danger and medium danger scoring chances, that's where he's at his worst. Like, he actually does okay on high danger chances. The only problem with Korpisalo's game is that too often he's letting in floaters. He's letting in goals from the point that are just seeing eye shots that go right by him. I'm not trying to be rude at all, but like, it almost seems like he can't pick up the puck. Like, he can't see it off the stick and it goes right in. And all of a sudden he's looking around like, where did it go? And I don't know. And we talk about his mask, Pillsy, like, there's something about like the style of it. It looks like it sits low on his head. It almost looks like it's kind of blocking his vision. I'm not, like, again, not trying to be rude, but we're trying to figure out why this guy let in 16 more goals than were to be expected, had one of the worst save percentages in the league, and why it's happened in Ottawa again for another year. So like, there has to be some blame on the team, because you look at the other guy, identical save percentage, but there was just something about the way that Korpisalo played in his net that gives you zero confidence in him in terms of being a positionally sound goalie, or one that can like have the vision and ability to see the puck and make sure that he's following his rebounds quickly and making sure he gets rebounds and not get clean beat on every shot from 15 to 30 feet out.
Well, Ross, if you're watching on YouTube, you can even see in this picture how low his mask is, and it almost looks like it's going to cover his eyes. Like, it looked like, if you're watching on YouTube, like, my hat is like this. That's normally how I wear a hat, so you can see. It looks like Korpisalo wears his hat like this. Like, the beak is like on his eyebrow. Yeah, exactly. We got the Korpisalo masks on right now. And I feel like it's one of those things, Ross. It's like classic Hollywood moment. All right, the team goalie sucks. He's trying so hard. He sucks. And then the coach is like, hey, you ever thought about getting glasses? Like, maybe try some glasses on here. And then they put the glasses on him. He's a friggin' all-star. Maybe Sens goalie coach just has to be like, you know what, Joonas? Let's try, just look, let's tilt that mask up. How's the vision now? And Corpy's just like, oh my God, this is like a game changer.
Jameis Winston got LASIK, and he was an NFL quarterback. Like,
yeah, so I don't know. Obviously, we're goofing a bit here, but there is some truth to what we're saying. His mask is abnormally low on his head. So I mean, I can still see right now, but I can see a whole lot better if I move this out of my way.
Let there be light. And with Korpisalo, we hope that he can figure it out.
I hope he sees the light.
Do you have confidence?
Do I have confidence? No.
Yeah. No, me neither.
Now,
let us know in the comments what you think about Joonas Korpisalo's season. I don't really have much else to say about it. It was disappointing in all aspects of it. You look at his game log, you look at the way things broke down for him, just frankly not good enough. The guy had 21 games where he had a save percentage above 9-10, and you need at least I think it's even worse when I put it like this. He had 28 games out of the 50 that he played, he had a save percentage under 900. Can't happen.
But Ross, I don't know if you're able to do this, but we did this exercise sometime through the year later on. What's his save percentage in wins? Are you able to quickly do that? Probably not. But I remember we looked at it and it was
Yes.
sparkling.
Yeah, of course. I mean, when you win, obviously you're going to be better, but he allowed he had a 925 save percentage in his 21 wins and an 861 in the losses.
Yeah, now Ross, obviously, like, yeah, when you're winning, you're probably gonna have better numbers, but like that range is pretty incredible. Like I would have thought in wins, he's maybe at like a 915 or somewhere in the 910s. But to be that high when you're winning and that low when you're losing, it's crazy.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You just want consistency out of him, right?
That's all I'm
And you
asking
just
for. Yeah.
weren't able to get that enough with Joonas Korpisalo. So let us know in the comments, Joonas Korpisalo's season in review. What do you think he needs to improve on for next season to go a whole heck of a lot better if he's back in the Senators' goal? On the other side, we'll get to Anton Forsberg, we'll get to Mad Sogaard, and NHL playoffs. That's next. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Monopoly Go. All right, game off. Let's hit pause here just for a second to talk about Monopoly Go. I know what you're saying. Flag on the play. You guys already talked about Monopoly Go, but there's just so much good stuff in this game. We got to get into it. In Monopoly Go, you can team up with your friends for time tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prize you unlock. And there's so much to get. You can get unique stickers that you can trade with friends so you can complete albums for big prizes, cool new playing pieces to travel the boards with. I always love the Monopoly playing pieces, classic. Hilarious emojis so you can taunt your friends. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. A ton include their own unique mini games like digging for treasure, robot pachinko machine, and there's always timed events that help you win big, like massive multipliers for every time you win or rent-free frenzies. There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go, so get off the bench and go download it now free on the Google Play or App Store. Game on with Monopoly Go.
Today's episode is also brought to you by Shawarma Palace. We love the Palace here on Locked On Senators, and why wouldn't we? Shawarma Palace is the place to go for shawarma in Ottawa since 1997. Started with just one shop, and now, because of the great community outreach here in Ottawa, you know that Shawarma Palace has grown into what it is today. But it's just a family business that started on Bank and Rideau, and now they're in the St. Laurent Shopping Center. They're in Orleans. They got a huge location in Orleans. We were lucky enough to get in there, have a great lunch last week, and we've also got stores in the Carleton University food court on Bank Street by Gladstone and Bank and Hunt Club. You're never too far away from a Shawarma Palace where you can get authentic Lebanese cuisine. The garlic potatoes, so delicious. You can get falafel, you can get the sandwich, the wrap. All of it is so delicious at Shawarma Palace. It is also really, really filling. I call it fuel filling because you get all the great ingredients, but you also make sure that you're leaving full. Just go to look at the portions to be sure yourself. So go to visit them at Shawarma Palace. Shawarma Palace Ottawa on social media. Shawarma Palace Ottawa is where they want you to eat like a royal. So eat like a royal today. Go visit them at any of their locations all across Ottawa. They're also available on Uber Eats. So get your orders in on Uber Eats and go make sure to eat at Shawarma Palace. Ottawa's number one place. When you're feeling shawarma, you're feeling Shawarma Palace. All right, Pillsy, we're back to our exit interviews. Talking goalies, talking Senators goalies. Frankly, overall, it was not good enough. And we talked about Joonas Korpisalo. The other guy wasn't much better.
Who are you, Jacques Martin?
The other guy wasn't much better. He wasn't. He really wasn't. I feel for Anton Forsberg. I really do, because obviously he went through the double knee tear. So it wasn't easy for him to even just come back from that, let alone play as often as he did this season. Not as much as he's played in his history with the Ottawa Senators, but still started 28 games more than he did last year. How would you summarize overall the season of Anton Forsberg?
Kind of similar to Joonas Korpisalo, Ross, just inconsistent. Like how the narrative we had for the goalies was ever changing this year. Like there was times where it was like, oh no, we can't see another Korpisalo start, and Forsey would get the nod, and you're like, oh nice, okay, Forsey's starting, and then it would be like the worst game. Like perfect example, Ross. My birthday, March 17th, up against the Carolina Hurricanes. Marsha and I sit down. Game's about to start. We cheers our drinks, and we're like, cheers to not having to watch Joonas Korpisalo tonight. Well, what happened? Anton Forsberg got shelled, and I'm pretty sure Corpy came in the game in relief. Like, it was just one of those where, like, nice. Like, we feel like we have a starting chance. Forsberg's starting. And there was just too many times, Ross, where both goalies were getting yanked for terrible games here. Now, the thing about Forsberg, if we're going to look for silver linings here, a winning record on this team with those stats is kind of crazy.
It's very impressive. 15, 12, and 0 was Anton Forsberg's record in 28 games. The .890 save percentage, identical to Korpisalo's, 3.21 goals against average. He did get 2 shutouts this season and still allowed 7.3 more goals than were to be expected. So the problem was consistency. I think the splits might even be more egregious for Anton Forsberg. 944 in wins, 944 in 15 wins.
Oh man.
In his 12 losses, 813.
What?
813. There were games wasn't it the Vancouver game where he got shelled right off the bat?
I can't keep track of all the shellings, Ross.
Yeah, 4 goals on 13 shots against Vancouver in that game. He had 5 on 18 against Buffalo in the 3rd game of the season. That game was the one where they forgot to tell him at intermission that he was getting pulled. So that was super awkward. And there were just other, like the game against Vancouver earlier in the season, even he let in 5 on 16. Like you just can't make, these are just horrific numbers. But then he had other games where he was classic Anton Forsberg. Even the last game of the season on the road in Boston, 34 saves, gets the win. The game in Tampa, his second last game, very solid performance. But then the game before that, lets in 3 on 9. Like you just never knew what you were going to get. And that is probably the biggest indictment you can say on a goalie. You need to know what you're going to get. The most important thing for a team to have confidence in your goalie is knowing that it's going to be a consistent performance game in and game out. Forsberg was the opposite of that this year. He had stretches where he was so good, and then others where he was the worst goalie in the league.
And Ross, what did we say for Korpisalo? It was like 270 career games and 5 shutouts. It was something like that?
4 shutouts and 276.
So Anton Forsberg has played 160 games and has 5 shutouts.
So there you go.
Yeah, and I feel like it's tough with Forsey, Ross, because part of me wants to be like, well, a guy coming off 2 blown MCLs, like you're going to have a tough time recovering. But I wouldn't say watching him, I was like, that's a guy that has 2 bum knees, right? Like it didn't seem like that was what dragged him down or made things difficult for him. So I'm not really sure where to go with Forsberg. And it's tough, Ross, here because hockey's a business, especially when you're in a salary cap world. If Korpisalo and Forsberg had identical contracts, I think you're probably leaning on keeping Forsey. However, with I almost called him Forpisalo, unironically. With Korpisalo having 4 years left on his deal at that ticket, you kind of got to stick with them. You're not going to be able to trade that contract, and the buyout is lengthy. So if you're looking to make a change in goal, unfortunately, it's going to probably come at Anton Forsberg being shipped out here. But this guy's been a battler for this team. He has a winning record as an Ottawa Senator overall, which, again, is crazy. And I just would have liked for better for Forsberg because he really was a big part of this team the last couple of years, a waiver wire pickup that came in clutch. And unfortunately, the writing's on the wall. We've probably seen his last as an Ottawa Senator, unfortunately.
He's got 1 year left at $2.75 million. Stay tuned, though. We'll see what happens next with Anton Forsberg. As always, let us know in the comments on YouTube at what you thought of Anton Forsberg's season for Ottawa. That brings us to the final member of the Senators trio in goal, Mads Sogaard. A small sample size for Mads. Had 3 separate call-ups, but only got into games, I think, on 2 because he made the trip over to Sweden as the extra goalie. Got some extra practice time there. Mads Sogaard, obviously an AHL season for him, still in the mix in the playoffs. Love that. But in the NHL, just 1 win in 4 games. The numbers, not great either. A 4.05 goals against average, an 859 save percentage, and in only 4 games, a -10 goals saved above expected. Overwhelmed, I think, would be a fair word to describe his season.
Yeah, that's definitely fair in the NHL. Overwhelmed would be a fair way to describe this. And yeah, I'm not going to put it all on Mads because I feel like when he came up, I'm trying to remember what time of year that was, but I feel like when he came up, the Sens were kind of at their lowest point.
His first game of the season was the one against Colorado. So tough team you're playing against, but Ottawa should have won that game many different times.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Ottawa was up 4-2 with 5 minutes left in the second period and then gave up 5 unanswered.
I think the key here, Ross, is last year really set back Mads in his development, in my opinion. Having to play 19 games with the Ottawa Senators was not the plan. Obviously, we already mentioned Forsberg's injury, and then Talbot was injured. So, he wasn't able to get the time in Belleville that he needed, and it showed. He struggled in Belleville last year, a 3.47 goals against, a 893 save percentage, and a losing record. So that really set him back. However, this year, I feel like they only brought him up because they had to, which it was what they had to do last time. But he didn't spend too much time there, and then he was able to really kind of flourish in Belleville, and now he's their starting goalie in the next round of the playoffs here. So I think this is really good. A development season for Mads because pretty soon he's at that age, Ross. He's 23 and he's a 2019 draft pick. He's kind of at that age where they got to decide, all right, you've had your time in Belleville, you've had a taste of the NHL. Are you ready to be at least an NHL backup, whether it's next year or the year after? I think they kind of have to give him a full tryout in the NHL. So you want him to really have success this year to kind of catapult him into the next role for this franchise.
So you're not worried about the season that was for Mads Sogaard?
Looking at these NHL stats, Ross, no, I'm not worried. It's a small sample size. The team was garbage.
It was 5 starts, by the way, 6 games, 4 decisions.
Yeah, so obviously these aren't great numbers, but this doesn't tell the story of Mads Sogaard's potential, in my opinion.
And the beauty of a good Calder Cup playoff run is, I think more than any other position, we see guys who win in the Calder Cup playoffs as a goalie and come up and are able to be NHL goalies consistently. I think back to when Robin Lehner won the Calder Cup a couple of years ago, and you're like, okay, this guy's going to be something. And sure enough, he was. Well, and you look, last year, Joey Decord was in the Calder Cup final, so he gets things done there. And he was playing against Hunter Shepard, who I think still has a chance. But anyways, neither here nor there. You look at around the league, you're seeing guys who come up through that development process more so at goal than anywhere else.
Anton Forsberg and Joonas Korpisalo winning the Calder Cup.
There you go. Those guys. Exactly. Great comparable there. Mads Sogaard, though, great AHL season, a save percentage above league average, all that, but just unable to really pull a bad team out from under bad play, and also didn't help himself a whole lot in a few of those games either. But look, he's still, I think next year's a huge year NHL wise for him.
Agreed. Yep.
There has to be a year where the save percentage is above 900. That's 3 straight years where it's not. And I get it. Small sample size in 2 of them, extremely small sample size in the first year, but we're now going on. His next start will be his 25th NHL game. So it's like, okay, the rookie conversation is probably behind him by next year. And it's like, okay, like what do we have now in Mad Sogaard? But we're obviously big fans of his. We'll be cheering for him.
Anytime.
Mad Sogaard still playing, which is great to see with the Belleville Senators. Pilsy, the NHL playoffs. Just quick, some thoughts on those. I know we've gone long today. The goaltenders obviously firing us up. However, your thoughts on the NHL playoffs over the weekend?
I feel bad saying this, Ross, but is this round one a dud? There's not one single series tied 2-2.
Well, I'm the biggest mush. I might go 0-8 in my predictions.
Yeah, well, you said when you were making your predictions, you're like, this is kind of crazy, but I'm going for it. So,
well, it's a heat check because last year I went 7 for 8. The only one I got wrong was going against the Leafs. So I was like, okay, let me rethink my strategy. I went bold and I legitimately, no, 7. I might go 1 because the Rangers was an easy pick and they've already gone through. So I'm actually 1 for 1 right now, Pilsy. So that's a 1 for 1.
Same. I think I'll probably end up going 5 for 8. I'm going to be wrong on the Leafs series. That's for sure. I'm going to be wrong on the Dallas series probably. And then
and Winnipeg,
I have the Jets. Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen.
They're so dead.
I don't think that's going to happen.
Giving up 15 power plays in 3 games to McKinnon, Makar, Rantanen is very bold.
Yeah. And Hellebuck.
Not to mention Cole Perfetti, still a healthy scratch. Like,
yeah, that's wild. But I mean, that's not going to win or lose you the series up against the Avalanche. But it is a wild move. Hellebuck in the playoffs hasn't been able to click it on like he has been able to in the regular season. Just announced today he is, of course, a Vezina finalist along with Thatcher Demko, and I'm blanking on the third guy for some reason.
I don't know.
But though they're Vezina finalists, Demko, Hellebuck.
Bobrovsky.
Thank you. Look, speaking of goalies, though, everyone thought the Vancouver Canucks were doomed when Thatcher Demko went down. Can Casey DeSmith take this team past the Predators? Casey DeSmith goes down. All right, it's Seelovs. And Seelovs, shout out to this guy. He had to play a bunch down the stretch as well. And a Latvian goalie that kind of seems like a happy-go-lucky guy. He mentioned, Ross, in the post game, they asked, like, what's it like to be a new or NHL goalie playing the playoffs? And he's like, pretty similar atmosphere like back home in Latvia. Like, wow.
Well, he's played in some big games in Latvia too. They were talking about the World Championships where he beat Casey DeSmith in the gold medal game. So
true. Nice.
Yeah, they only had 13 shots on goal in that game and got the win. So that's pretty impressive themselves. Brock Besser, by the way, was ridiculous in the game on Sunday.
JT Miller.
Hat trick for it gave me. And I think I saw, was it Bev? I wish I could give credit to it on Twitter. I saw someone mention that this is actually the anniversary of the Jean-Gabriel Pageau 4-goal game. 4 goals. That's absolutely sick. And nice. It gave me those flashbacks where they were down 2 late in the game. Now, the Rangers didn't hit the post on an empty net, which is just wild. That was like as wild, if not more, than the Belleville Sens Toronto Marlies post or missed empty net. He didn't even hit the post, just missed. But to go down the other way and then score with 6 seconds left, and it was a very unconventional goal with 6 seconds left. There was no puck control. It was just bouncing puck. Everyone was trying to get a stick on it. Next thing you knew, it was in the back of the net. It was awesome. It was chaotic.
Oh, it was so awesome, Ross. And the worst part about that is on the TSN highlight pack, they have the bench angle from that. So I forget what player it is on Nashville goes for the backhander. And from their angle on the bench, since it's a backhander that goes across the net and hits the far post, it looks like it's in for them. So he backhands it, hit the post, and the Nashville bench is like, yeah, like we got it. Like we got this win. And then it's like a second of fist pumping, like, wait, what? No. Oh, no. And then Vancouver comes back and scores and ties it and ultimately wins it. Like that's playoff hockey. Like you live and die in quick moments, and it can turn around like that. So that's exciting. I'm not saying there hasn't been good hockey, but for there to be 0-2-2 series is I can't think of a round one where that's happened.
Yeah, it's a very tough argument for people who wanted expanded playoffs, where it's like, not this year, buddy. Not this year to make that argument. Out of all the teams that are down 3-1,
Oh,
3-1.
easy
So
answer.
not doubt. I was going to say who's the most likely to come back and win.
Oh, I thought you said most surprised, or we're gonna say most surprising. I'm surprised Dallas is down. By
They're only down 2-1 though.
Yes, true. They're only down 2-1.
I'm holding out a tiny little bit of hope on Tampa. I think if they win tonight in Florida on the road, I mean, who else? Winnipeg ain't coming back.
Not at zero. None of these teams are coming back.
Okay, so you're already ready to let's play round 2.
The only series that's worth sticking to, I think, is Dallas Vegas right now.
Well, yeah, and again, game 4 there is tonight, so it could be 3-1 after tonight, or we could get 1-2 series. The Rangers, though, are the first team on, and oh yeah, the blue team. And our guy at Laleem's Martian tweeting out this morning, happy blue team elimination week to all those who celebrate. Shout out to Steve Warren and Tigor, the guys back in the day that we grew up listening to, to get that back in the mix. Always a great week. Pilsy, what do you have to say to fans? And there were a couple in my mentions, I had to ignore them, that Mitch Marner should be traded to the Sens.
Disgusting.
Worst trade proposal ever. I wouldn't even trade a 7th round pick for that guy.
Ross, I know that this probably seems like a bit and in jest, but you said you wouldn't trade a 7th round pick. I wouldn't trade future considerations for Mitch Marner at any contract, any price level. I hate the way he plays hockey. He's never going to have playoff success, and just don't even bother. I want zero talk about Mitch Marner to the Sens. I hate that. I would vomit.
It would be
if
the
that
worst.
happened.
No, it's not going to happen. It better not happen.
No, it's not going to happen. We shouldn't even really be talking about it, to be honest. But it's just an opportunity for me to portray how much I hate Mitch Marner.
Hey, the Sens just beat up Marlies, so we got that going for us too. Matt, the Marlies and the Leafs out in the same week. Wow, sucks to be a Toronto sports fan again. Any final thoughts on today's show? Were you trying to do the Kawhi laugh there?
No, okay. I wasn't. No, Ross, we're at 52 minutes here. No final thoughts for me. I've given all my thoughts that I have in this brain. I've given to you.
The final thought went right past you, like you were a Senators goaltender.
Damn.
Tomorrow we will discuss the top 4 defensemen for the Ottawa Senators. Shabbat, Chikrin, Sanderson, Zub. Those will be coming to you on tomorrow's LOSP. We also may have a very special guest from the Belleville Senators. We will discuss that tomorrow or the next day. Stay tuned all week on Locked On Senators. Make sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. We're also free and available on YouTube. For today, though, we say goodbye. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great day, everyone. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.